The Nintendo Switch 1 has done the impossible, something that I felt many people didn't think could happen throughout the generation of the Nintendo Switch 1 that's still going, even though the Nintendo Switch 2 is more than a year old at this point. The Nintendo Switch 1 is launching in new markets like Indonesia later this year. It still gets a decent, somewhat, amount of sales in Japan every single week, and there are places that are still selling Nintendo Switch 1 and the games they're still selling somewhat. It's an incredibly popular system. Some might say the best-selling system of all time if you don't magically conjure up 5 million units of PS2 somewhere in Antarctica or something like that after on your way out because the Switch 1 was coming up. But once again, that's neither here or there. I saw this post on Twitter and I wanted to discuss it, and I would say that the impossible that the Nintendo Switch 1 has done, to me, makes it the most impressive system of all time. And we're going to break down that plus a bit more. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Okay, on this post on Twitter, it says the Nintendo Switch is already the console that has sold the most games in all of history, surpassing the PlayStation 2 without having the mainline CODs, without having the mainline, more like big GTA 5 and GTA 4, without having Red Dead Redemption 2. It did get Red Dead Redemption 1 and it did get GTA Trilogy, without most AAA third-party titles, and that is correct. It's an impressive achievement, and I have to agree. Now, it's something, though, Nintendo has done before, but they've never done it, I would say, this high up in a home console or hybrid portable type of thingy, whatever you want to call it. The Wii was the closest. That did over 100 million, but that's still underneath a lot of the other systems. Like, it's up there, definitely one of the best selling systems of all time. You hit 100 million, that's really good, but the Nintendo Switch 2 is actually more impressive. Once again, it did have a lot of great third-party support. It did have some cool stuff, but it was missing the majority of big AAA third-party titles. It didn't have Red Dead Redemption 2. It didn't have GTA 5, GTA 4. It didn't even have Call of Duty. The Wii, yes, the Wii even had Call of Duty. Even if you look at the Nintendo DS, one of the best-selling systems of all time, that even had a Call of Duty game. That also had one. The DS also had GTA Chinatown Wars. Obviously, Nintendo Switch 1, it did get the GTA Trilogy, but it didn't get a unique GTA game or anything brand new, and it didn't get any type of Call of Duty at all. The DS and the Wii have one form or another of those, so that's why when you look at everything here, the Nintendo Switch 1 is the most impressive, because not only has it sold more software now at this point than the PlayStation 2, it's also, before the whole 5 million units out of nowhere, it's the best-selling system. And it has a chance at 156.59 million units to actually get up to where the PlayStation 2 is at 160 million, because the Switch 2 is continuing to sell. And like I said, it's going to Indonesia. Now, we can talk about sales numbers and data and all that. That stuff's like kind of boring for a lot of people, right? What does this mean for the gamers? Well, if you look at the Nintendo Switch 1, and the lack of third-party support, the lack of announcements, the lack of AAA games, which was partly due to the Wii U and what happened there, and the Switch 1 specs. It's like a combination of things. Now look at the Nintendo Switch 2, where you have Kingdom Hearts 4 announced day and date on the Nintendo Switch 2. You have games like Street Fighter 6, which Street Fighter had been absent. Big mainline Street Fighter had been absent on Nintendo platforms for a while. You look at Call of Duty coming over. You look at all of these games that are coming over. Even stuff like Lies of P. These were skips on the Nintendo Switch 1. Would have been an automatic skip. But now we're actually getting those games. Even stuff like Indiana Jones, or games like Oblivion Remastered, or Fallout. A lot of these games were just skipping one after another. If you don't get the explosive sales of Switch 1, and then an iterative console that takes those concepts and ideas that Switch 1 started and just blows them up times 10 to where developers know that the consumer is getting a product that they know that they're going to like. If you like Switch 1, you will 99.9% probably like Switch 2, with a few exceptions here and there, game key cards, some stuff like that. Obviously, prices of games, there's some issues there, but the concept, outside of that, the concept of Switch 1, if you like Switch 1, you'll like Switch 2, and eventually you'll probably get a Switch 2. That confidence of the sales of Switch 1 led right into the Switch 2 having better third-party support from the jump and games being planned, because they knew Nintendo would market and sell this device just like they did with Switch 1, but even better. You like this, and then here comes this thing. It's the same thing, but even better. Developers love stability. They love predictability. They love those things when it comes to the platform holder. You know what you're getting when you are on Steam. You know what you're getting when you're on Xbox. You know what you're getting when you're on PlayStation. With Nintendo, it's been too much of an enigma. Every single generation, they're going to do this crazy thing and this crazy thing. And don't get me wrong, I like cool stuff. I like interesting gimmicks and things like that. But for a developer, when you're not knowing what's going to happen, when you're not knowing how the system's going to sell because there's some type of crazy gamepad concept, now there's these crazy motion controls, and there's no consistency in if it's going to do well, that creates a lot of anxiousness. It creates a lot of nerves on actually taking the money and taking the time and taking the resources and porting things over. The Switch 2, we know what you're getting, but there's some cool new other things added in, and it's been significantly better for the gamers. Full backwards compatibility, a lot more third-party support, and for the developers that know that people know what they're getting so they can put out their game. They can look at what they put out on Switch 1 if they did, or looked at what sold over there and say, okay, we can put this out here. And now we have better specs to take advantage of that. So the Switch 1 did the impossible of completely flipping the narrative, the impression of Nintendo and what they were going to do, and snowballed that into what's happening now with the Nintendo Switch 2, which has had the best 13-month stretch ever in the history of video games. 23 million plus units sold, well over 24 million units at this point, and it's going to keep on continuing here. If Nintendo can keep with the big heavy hitters, which are continuing to be announced all the time, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is setting up to be a behemoth, just a huge game. You still have Nintendo Switch Sports Resort. You still have the mystery, and I would say somewhat anticipation for some people at least, of the Dusk Bloods. You still have a bunch of AAA titles. This is something that can continue on for the next decade or so, and Nintendo can sell 100 million units plus. Now, I don't know if it's going to reach the heights of what happened with the Nintendo Switch 1, with 156 million units plus and all of that, and pushing PS2, DS, Switch 1 type numbers, but I feel that it can definitely be up there with the Nintendo Wii, pushing past 100 million units, absolutely, all things considered when it comes to the price. But of course, pricing, game availability, what happens with the other games, but there is a crucial stretch, kind of going from the impossible from Switch 1 to Switch 2. Can we see a system, because there's never been a system in the history, sell back-to-back 150 million units? I don't know. I don't know if that's ever going to happen with any home console at this point, especially considering how much streaming and how much PC gaming and mobile gaming and other things is kind of eaten into the market. But man, that would be something crazy, right? That would be the next impossible. Back-to-back 150 million units sold. That's never happened before. We've gotten back-to-back 100 million units, and that's something that's impressive in its own right. But back-to-back from predecessor, 150 million units, just never happened, but you never know. We will see what's happening there. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is that you're seeing a lot of people kind of backtrack and stop talking about certain things that were happening earlier in the Nintendo Switch's life, because they essentially wanted to act like they had more knowledge or just essentially grift to make more money on here. But the reality of the situation is that a lot of people are liars on here, and they know that lying about Nintendo or misrepresenting certain things are going to get them clicks, get them revenue, get them money. And it's great to see their downfall at this point and them lose the majority of their audience, as they were bragging about having hundreds of thousands of views on videos and bragging about how people look at what they watch and how popular they are, making Patreons that are just absolutely worthless at the end of the day. They offer no real insight or value or consistent content to begin with, yet they're sitting here asking for things. And it's great to see Nintendo Prime call this nonsense out for what it is. Over on Twitter, Nintendo Prime said, Nintendo's stock recently came across my feed, something I don't really follow that much, but was used most of the last year by a certain content creator that rhymes with cream to talk about how badly Switch 2 is failing. Figured I'd glance at his channel and see if he's covering how successful Nintendo was last quarter. And of course they weren't. I'm not advertising that dope here, but I essentially said this, and this is the reality of it, guys. I'm here to tell you exactly how it is. I'm not here to sit here and lie to you guys. I've been doing this for so long, and there's a lot of people that are opportunistic when it comes down to it. I suggest not watching those vids. So I said this, I quote tweeted Nintendo Prime, and shout outs to him, he's awesome. And I said, gamers shouldn't be worried about a multi-billion-dollar company stock that has theme parks, billion-dollar movies, and an actual value that would be insane if they were up for sale. The hypothetical if they were up for sale. That dude is just a washed grifter with an extremely punchable looking face. And that's really just it. Who cares about Nintendo stock? As you see their stock, yeah, it's went up. In the last month, they're up like 30%. They announced that Pokemon Pocopia has sold 5 million plus units. That caused a bit more in stock price. And the thing about it is this, guys. Nintendo is going to do Nintendo. Their stock actually is somewhat irrelevant to them. They bought back a bunch of their shares. They do not care. They know they have the most valuable IP in gaming, and they've got a banger system that's selling incredible that they're going to try to push to keep on going. And as long as they release the banger games with the great developers and have some great, exciting titles that get people buying, their stock price is going to be fine. They're already a multi-billion-dollar company with zero debt, theme parks, all sorts of billion-dollar movies. Why are we sitting here looking like we're some type of stock trading company? That is stupid. Now, if you have stocks in Nintendo, that's fine. But what Nintendo's stock price is does not affect the type of bangers you're going to get. Smash Brothers is coming out no matter what. Pokemon Winds and Waves is coming out no matter what. Xenoblade Genesis is coming out no matter what. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave is coming out no matter what. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is coming out no matter what. They are going to continue releasing great games and titles, and eventually it all takes care of itself. A lot of these people don't play any of the games. They have stuff to say, but they're not actual real gamers. A lot of them are PC or Steam weirdos that are sitting here spending $1,500 on Steam machines with no controllers, or spending $1,000 on that, buying multiple Steam controllers, sitting here playing emulation games and weirdo stuff. A lot of these people, like I said, very punchable looking faces because that's what they do. And they pose and act like they're some type of Nintendo fan or some type of gamer. No, they're not. They don't even show what they play. They don't show any time at the end of the year. They don't do any of that. They're just opportunistic. They're just opportunistic content creators looking for extra money. That's really what it comes down to, and they're really scared to talk to anybody else that's willing to call them out on their lies. They'll run and run and run and hide on their channel, and that's why things are not going as well as it went last year for them, because they cannot lie and deceive the public like they did. So shout outs to Prime for talking about that, and that's something, like I said, I didn't really spend too much time discussing those type of things, but the reality of the situation is the reality of the situation here. What do you think about everything that we went over here with the Nintendo Switch 1, Switch 2, and some games as well? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.